All right, let's talk about the politics of all of this. We bring in Joe Pinion, secretary of the Young Republican Club in New York, former candidate for New York State Assembly, founder of Pinion Enterprises. Ben Kissel, co-host of the last podcast on the left, although he's on the right on your television screen, but we'll figure it out. Ben, for so long in the 2016 election, President Trump not only won the primary, but went into the general and continued to use immigration and some would say pretty tough stands when it comes to immigration issues.
Say so, yeah.
Okay, as a wedge issue, and he's president. It worked.
Well, it's worked to divide the country, yeah.
Does this work in the same way here?
I mean, I think that this is just a grotesque attempt to undermine our democracy. There's no denying that there's political motivation behind this. The fact that the Republicans gave up 66 seats in the House in 2018 was a shock to the system, and they want to use this citizenship question on our census to further gerrymander and redistrict areas where they think they're losing control. So this is a total, it's completely unconstitutional, and it's counterintuitive to our democratic process.
Joe, but is it going to work?
Look, I think that realistically it's 100% political. Having said that, it's political on both sides. And so I think that it's disingenuous for us to sit here and try to sit there and act like somehow it's only one way cutting towards the president. I think realistically,
just so our viewers understand the idea of why this is political, and you talked about it a little bit, that it is thought that if you put this citizenship question on the census, those who are either related to illegal immigrants or are illegal immigrants themselves will not put down their information on the census. Therefore, Republicans get more congressional districts. That's what this really comes down to.
It's going to skew the entire census. It's basically going to make the census moot. It's not going to achieve the goal of the census, which is finding out how much public funding is needed for schools, roads, infrastructure in general. So this whole thing, when you talk about politics on both sides, this is only a political issue because Donald Trump has brought it up. So just because we're like, no, dude, you can't do that, it doesn't mean that we're playing politics.
All right, speaking of somebody, she didn't say dude, but she did say no, you can't do that, is Nancy Pelosi. We'll put her tweet up here and get a chance for you guys to react to it. As long as President Trump continues to try to add a citizenship question to the census, we will continue to work to expose the Trump administration's corrupt motivations, including the administration in contempt of Congress on the census. We will never stop fighting to ensure a fair, accurate, and timely census that counts everyone in every community without fear or confusion. Joe, to you, is it good for the president and for his base and get out the vote if this goes into 2020?
Look, I think realistically, when you dispense with all the legal arguments and all of the things that you're talking about with gerrymandering, the average American is not sitting at home trying to figure out who's trying to gerrymander their elections. They're trying to figure out what is so harmful about simply asking people, are you a citizen or are you not a citizen? And I think that type of simple messaging, whether you agree with its political motivations, whether you agree with however it might just be actually distorting the census process, I think resonates with a large swath of Americans, which is kind of how President Trump got elected in the first place.
The argument if people don't care, I mean, that really doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, the census is a very important document that we need to know how many folks are in this country.
But hold on, Ben, hold on. Let me ask this, what you say in the form of a question here. President Trump won by flipping working class voters in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, who voted for Barack Obama. He did it by, in your own words, taking some tough lines on immigration. I know a lot of those people have spent a lot of time reporting in those districts. I don't think there are a lot of them who have an issue with asking whether or not someone's a citizen on the census. Well, that doesn't suddenly push them over to the Democratic side.
Well, it's very risky once you start going down this road. I mean, my father, for example, is a German immigrant. He married my mother. He's still not a full citizen. Now, does he have to fill out this census and say, no, he's not an American citizen? Puts people in a very difficult predicament that, quite frankly,
if he's here legally, what's wrong? What's the issue?
But why change it now? I mean, this has never been done in the history of the country. There's no denying this is solely for political reason. And it's not for an actual data collection.
I mean, look, I'll just say this. I think just because we've never done it before, in and of itself is not an argument to say that we shouldn't start doing it now. I do recognize that there are instances right now we can sit here and say that, look, there are going to be trepidations in certain communities because of the fact that that question might be added. But I think if we're talking purely political...
I just want to stop you because we've just gotten this in from our Justice Department team, who is also canceled their vacations to work through the holiday weekend. The federal judge set that 2 p.m. deadline over the census citizenship question. The Justice Department just made a filing in the past couple of minutes that said they are still exploring their options. Joe, to you, Does the president and Republicans, are they well served by just continuing to draw this out? Or is it worth at some point just putting it to bed if they lose in the courts?
I think realistically, if they lose in the courts, it probably helps the president. I think to say that, look, I made a promise on immigration. I've done everything I've done as the law permits me to say that I can hold this line up on immigration. And I think that, again, we can talk about the legal ramifications, but I think if you're talking strictly political, they're really not playing the game of chicken. They're playing the game of kind of brinksmanship.
I mean, this is the Supreme Court that Mitch McConnell, when he stopped Merrick Garland, they assured this Supreme Court was going to be conservative. It's stacked now with Trump appointees. If this Supreme Court doesn't side with Donald Trump, he's way off base.
Well, and that will be the debate, or a big part of the debate for 2020 in terms of who gets the next appointments. Fellows, appreciate it. Great, intellectual, thoughtful conversation. We enjoyed it. Joe, Ben, enjoy the rest of your holiday weekends.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, gents.